Welcome to Adulting on the Spectrum. I am Andrew Komarow, an autistic certified financial planner. I co-run Adulting on the Spectrum with Eileen Lamb. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, Andrew. I'm Eileen Lamb. I host this podcast with Andrew. And in this podcast, we want to highlight real voices of autistic adults, not just inspirational stories, but real people talking about their life. Basically, we want to give a voice to people like us. And today, our guest is Ryan Lee.
Hi.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan. Do you want to introduce yourself or?
Hi. I'm Ryan. I was diagnosed with autism when I was 3 years old. At first, I didn't want to, when I learned about it, I didn't want to believe it. I was trying to be like everyone else most of my life. But when I learned to accept it, I started being more comfortable in my own skin, being myself, and trying to put myself out there more. And it felt good. I've written several articles for Autism Speaks and another platform over the last couple of years. Met new people on the spectrum along the way. I've been trying to aim to make a difference for the whole autism community.
Yeah, we've seen some of your articles. They're really great. And you know, we like to ask our guests if they have a preference in how they identify. So do you like an autistic person, a person with autism, or does it not matter to you?
Autistic or person on the spectrum. I don't know if I have a preference, but I want people to know that I do have autism. That's a real thing.
Do you want to tell us more about your diagnosis? You were diagnosed at 3, which is pretty early. And
yeah.
What was it like for you growing up on the spectrum?
You see, well, even before I knew I was diagnosed, I always knew I was different. Like, always feeling like an oddball among my peers. Always wondering why I couldn't be accepted or why I couldn't fit in. You know, it was really hard growing up, to be honest. Like, trying to be like everyone else. Like, I always felt like my parents, like, they knew I had autism, but always pushed me to be better than everyone else, or I'm being ashamed of myself by my odd behavior. And, like, the pressure just came too much, and sometimes I had meltdowns.
Now, you were diagnosed with autism when you were 3, but you didn't know that you were autistic until you were 14. How did you find out? How did your parents tell you? And what do you wish may or could have been done differently, if anything? What went well? What didn't?
I don't actually remember when or how they told me, but I knew I had when I was 14. Well, I knew when I found out, I just didn't know what to say. I felt like I was too much. I felt like I was too different from everyone else. I wanted people to accept me, so I tried to be like everyone else so I could be accepted. But apparently it didn't turn out so well sometimes, because sometimes I acted out when I felt like no one was listening to me.
And do you wish that you had known that you were autistic earlier, or
Yes.
Are you happy with that? Okay. And why is that?
Because I did see on the news one time of a kid, I don't remember his name, but he told his elementary school classmates about him having autism, and they listened. And if I'd known that, maybe I would have gotten my classmates to listen to me more and accept me more and learn and start educating people about autism. But it was back in the 90s. Like, autism wasn't very aware much back in the 90s.
Yeah. How did their behavior change towards you once they knew you were autistic?
When I told my friends that only a few people, when I was in high school, only a few people knew I was on the spectrum. And they treated me okay and well. But there are a few of my classmates who knew I was autistic and didn't treat me right. They called me the R word, retard. And that made me so mad. And I didn't. And there was this one football player who was taller than me who called me the R word too many times. And I kind of told him about that. I got so mad, I kicked him. And I got in trouble for it, but I felt like it was worth that, because like, the R word is very offensive to people on the spectrum or others with disabilities.
But I totally understand where you're coming from, especially when you're being bullied so often, like every day. I mean, after
the
a while,
R word is my trigger word. You know, when someone calls me that, it just gets so angry. Like, my adrenaline just flows through me, and I just get so mad.
I get it. Yeah, and it's not fair.
No, it isn't.
I know, I've read some of your articles, and you talk about masking. And what is it like for you? Do you feel like you still mask a lot? That there are things that you don't do just because you try to fit in?
No, I used to mask a lot, but I don't do it anymore, because I'm tired of wearing a mask. I don't want to live in a world where I don't get to be who I am.
Yeah.
Nobody does. Nobody wants that.
So you describe yourself as an autism advocate. What does advocacy mean to you, right? Because I think there's talking about your experiences, but there's a lot more to advocacy than just you. How would you describe advocacy? What does it mean to you?
It means like sharing your opinions or yourself with other people to get them to understand, to get them to connect, and show the world, to put yourself out there for the world to understand. I mean, how is the world supposed to change? I mean, if we don't do anything about it, if we don't start talking.
But wouldn't you say that advocacy is about a lot more than just talking, right? Because
It's doing, like, there is the autism walk, which I never actually done before, but I'm considering doing it for the first time this year.
But what I mean is, like talking about something is not just about, sharing your story. It's about sharing your story to impact and influence others, to advocate for more than yourself, to advocate for, others, to try and make change. Right.
Yeah.
We got introduced from a mutual connection who's, a professional advocate who helps, enact laws and changes to make lives better for all autistic people. And not everyone can make laws and, have that large impact. But is advocacy to you sharing your story, or is there a part of advocacy, that you're very passionate about and that you really want to change, or is it just more the general perception of autism?
Well, I want to do more than just share my story and share my personal experiences. But because I know I'm not the only person on who feels the same way I do, that faces unfair treatment. It's like me telling them that we autistics, we feel emotions much more intensely than a neurotypical. Like, for example, I wrote in my last article how it is of heartbreak, being done by a friend. Like, when my heart hurts, I go into this blinding rage and sometimes say stuff I don't mean, and other angry and harsh things. I try to make people understand that we autistics, we have feelings too, just feel it much more intensely. And we need to be understood. And we need to feel like we're being heard. When I'm upset and when something happened, like being done by a friend, I have a hard time expressing myself without anger because I'm not trying to hide how I feel. The thing about feelings is that sometimes they change. Which what makes them so interesting. But you can't deny that you feel feelings because they'll just end up feeling worse. You know what I mean?
Have you tried writing your feelings? I know that's
what
I do.
I do sometimes write in a diary.
Oh, yeah. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels good to write down my feelings and let them out.
And so you are a person of color, and not just that, you're an autistic person as well. How do you feel knowing that maybe some of your aggression and or meltdowns could be taken in not the best way, maybe with some bias? I can't imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes, just like a neurotypical can't imagine what it's like to be in our shoes. But do you have any advice on that specifically, or, what goes through your head, or anything else to help others out there?
Yeah, since you said about of color, people need to understand that autism just doesn't affect whites. It affects us people colors too. It affects all races, not just one. Like, and people can be so I don't know, shallow sometimes when it comes to race, whatever.
And do you have any concerns of, potentially having a meltdown in interactions with police? I've heard concerns from other, other parents and other individuals, or do you have any advice, or is it?
Well, the thing is, like, I did get a card showing to show police that I'm on the autism spectrum. But the thing is, some police should be trained to handle those with autism, because there are some people with autism that have meltdowns in the police, and police don't want to handle it. Like, have you heard of this guy named Matthew Russian who was unfairly in prison?
Yeah, that was such a sad story.
That was a prime example of how that police should get training on those how to handle those with autism. Okay, unfairly. I can't imagine how Matthew felt being in prison. It must have been so horrible.
Yeah.
Trust me. Have you seen a jail cell? It's disgusting.
Have you?
I have, yes, I have. So I remember when I was younger, we toured a jail cell, and I think I must have been like 5. And they said, and it was like a local like jail cell in like the suburbs, but they said that they fed them McDonald's. And I got really excited because I'm like, ooh, McDonald's. Like, ooh, I want McDonald's. I want to go. Yeah. And that idea quickly faded.
Hey, you see, well, I wouldn't get too excited about that, because one of my friends, like, or something for this group I'm in, has been in prison before. And I can't go into detail, but he said seriously to some people before, he said, look, I've been in prison. It's not fun in there. And I'm sure Matthew would say that too.
I can't imagine it's fun. I think that's the point, right? You don't want to go there. So
Yeah, that's as my friend Daniel would say, it's not fun in there.
I can't imagine. I mean, just like the quarantine was hard. So can you imagine being in prison and having no freedom? It's just drives me crazy.
Like a jail cell is disgusting. Not to mention there's a toilet in the middle of the room.
I know. Oh.
Which I don't even.
But speaking of prison, have you heard that Wentworth Miller, who was the actor that played in Prison Break, I don't know if you've seen that TV show, but it just came out as autistic. It sounds weird to say came out, but he was diagnosed with autism.
I'll look it up.
He's awesome, and it's he was in his 40s when he was diagnosed, and yeah, it's really really cool to see more people getting diagnosed as adults. Do you think there is advantages to getting a diagnosis as a child as opposed to as an adult? Like, are you happy you had that diagnosis?
When I guess when I diagnosed late as an adult, like I guess you'd feel bad that you didn't have the help you had as a kid, and you're struggling now since life is harder. But when you're a kid, people now they'll know how to help you as you grow up. Like sometimes when you expect to do things right the first time, or perfection. And I'm not the type of person that likes perfection. I just want people to appreciate my effort, even if it's not enough to them.
See, that's a good advocacy thing. I feel like telling people that we're doing our best. They can't expect from us what they would expect from a neurotypical person. And we all have our differences in what we can do and cannot do. Even, on the spectrum, we're all different from each other. And just because an autistic person who could do that doesn't mean that we can do it too. And that's
but it's like saying that's a people also like just because we have the same disorder doesn't mean we see things the same way. That's one of the harshest realities I face, and we all face, is that we can be very different from people we're supposed to relate to.
Yep.
Like just like that, there may be a little relation that you have because you have autism, but your autism is not like Eileen's son's autism, or even each son, Charlie and Jude, their autism is just so very different. It's not the same. There's some in common, and sometimes it's just because we're human, we have things in common. Sometimes it's the autism that's in common.
Like how are Eileen's son's autism different?
Well, like my eldest son, Charlie, is 8 and is so severe that he can't talk or communicate, be independent. He's, self-harms, all of that. And my youngest son, like, honestly, it's even hard to tell he is on the spectrum, just like me, because he talks so well and he has a lot of strengths. And it's hidden. It's really an invisible disability, and for people like Charlie, my son, like they might never be able to advocate for themselves and live an independent life. And the spectrum is broad. And I think we don't talk enough about the severe side.
Yeah, but just because you can't see our autism doesn't mean you don't have challenges. It's like, I've encountered some people telling me that I don't look autistic, and that makes me mad. And I tell them, well, how the heck am I supposed to look then?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I'm with you. Yeah. I don't like it either when people tell me that, just because I can talk and I'm somewhat successful, but like I can go to the grocery store to buy milk. I just can't do it. Grocery stores to me are like hell, or like I can't maintain a friendship, all of these things.
Well, that might just be because you're mean, Eileen. I don't know if that has to be with autism. Sorry, be a little sarcastic there.
Sarcasm is.
Yeah, I should probably do a little less sarcasm on an autistic podcast, but some people are very, sarcastic. So there we go. Everyone's different. But so I've seen you before, or in some of your other articles, talk about how, the online community could be filled of lots of hate, as Eileen would say, or as really anyone would say. And you seem to be just a genuinely nice person who really just wants to help people spread awareness. And I'm saying that because I wish we had more of that, right? So what other advice can you give to others who are looking to, share a positive message, but in doing so, they're being attacked?
Yeah, still just try to be yourself. And if you can't ignore the haters, then, well, I don't know, but still keep trying and push through, keep on going.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice. Keep on going and ignore the hate.
Like, how is this world supposed to change if we don't fight?
Do you ever get hate online?
There were a few times, but
Not
I
much.
ignored it. I ignored it because I didn't want to cause an internet war if I responded, even though I really wanted to. Okay. Because when I get hate sometimes I want to insult the person back.
How did you ignore it? You act like it was like a matter of
Easy.
fact, like it was so easy to ignore it. I think it's one of the hardest things for me to do. Eileen doesn't ignore it at all. So it's
Not anymore.
not anymore. And that's not a bad thing either. But for others who want to ignore it, what advice can you give?
Sometimes, yeah, I feel like fight back when necessary. Just figure out something that'll put them in their place. But if not, well, you can only ignore stuff for so long.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's exactly the thing. Yeah, I feel like for a few years I was able to like ignore it, and after a while it's just like, what's that expression with the teapot that's exploding, or I don't know, but like after a while, it just has to come out, and you have to.
In high school, like I can only ignore insults so much that they're like, sometimes I even attack someone when they call me, like I told you, and there are others I attacked because they kept calling me the R word and saying mean things about me, and my teachers told me to ignore it, but I tell them I can't ignore it, but they just sometimes they don't care or listen.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to say when you're not the one like being subjected to the insults and the hate. Like, well, ignore it. It seems so easy, but when you're the one who's getting the hate, it's not easy to do. I mean, I know I have a hard time ignoring it. I just feel the need to like defend myself and tell people how they're wrong. Because they are wrong.
I'm never wrong, Eileen. I don't know why you keep telling me that. So, okay. Sarcasm again. See, I can't stop it. So, Ryan, a lot of people with autism, autism is not their entire lives. There's nothing wrong with, being an autistic advocate. Is that what you're looking to do as far as, college and career, or do you have, other passions to support your advocacy, like Temple Grandin, or even John Elder Robinson with his, car business, Temple Grandin with animals, or are you making advocacy your true focus?
Well, advocacy is not my true focus. I'm just trying to focus on my life. I'm done with college a long time ago. Mostly I'm done with school. I'm just working right now, trying to figure out my life. But also I want to enjoy my life most of all, and do things and take risks. I mean, at the beginning of the year, I went skydiving for the first time.
Well, that's cool.
I hate heights. How was skydiving?
I showed the entire world that even autistic can take chances without severe consequences.
Yeah, I could never do it. How was it?
It was awesome. One of the best moments of my life. Falling through the air, like so scary. It felt so fast and fun.
Were you scared?
Nope.
That's cool. Just thinking about it, I'm like, oh.
I wasn't scared at all. I was so ready for it because I wanted to take that chance. Now I can cross off my bucket list.
That's true. What else is on your bucket list?
Skiing, because I really want to learn to ski.
Wait, what state do you live in?
Georgia.
Georgia.
Is there much snow in Georgia? Where would you go to ski?
Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Colorado?
Well, while traveling to Utah, I've been to the Denver airport, but I haven't been outside the state.
And one more thing, Ryan, we saw that you like poetry. Is that something you do for a living, or that you want?
It's just a little hobby I do just to express myself. I like to share it on open mic nights on this place on the second Monday of each month. Or is it the first Monday? Or I like to find ways to express myself a lot.
How have people received it? Have you heard good feedback?
Yeah, good feedback a lot.
That's nice. Okay, well, we always finish our podcast by asking quick fire questions. So you just give me the first answer that comes to your mind. You'll see it's very easy. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
That is kind of hard because I received lots of advice. The best advice I get, like, we all make mistakes. And the best thing to do is learn from them, not hold yourself back because of them.
Very good. What do you like to do to relax?
I like to just read, listen to music, watch YouTube videos, and play games with my friends.
What's your favorite book about autism?
My favorite book about autism?
Have you read it?
I don't know. I've read a lot about autism, but Carrie Magrow's book is one of my favorite books so far.
Oh, you would love to hear that. What's your favorite food?
Pizza.
And your favorite movie?
I have a lot of movies, but one of my top favorite movies in Disney is Descendants. because they show about children from the worst Disney villains ever and children from the best Disney heroes. Because I'm a huge Disney fan.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. Do you want to tell people where they can find you online?
Yeah, you can look on me on Facebook or I have Instagram. My username is Ryan101, and I have Twitter, and I have my own website called ryansheart.wordpress.com. You can find all my socials there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan, for joining us today.
And I thank you for your time. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.